Word minute. Description, a very short period of time, often used to describe length. It can also refer to a small quantity or detail. Think of it as a short amount of time, like just a minute, or a tiny amount. Phrases of example. First, not a minute to spare. Second, 1 minute they're laughing, the next they're gone. Third, I'll be there in a minute. Word precise. Description means accurate and clearly defined. It describes something that is exact, detailed, and leaves little room for error or ambiguity. Used when emphasizing detail and accuracy in information or measurements. Phrases of example. First, the precise moment of her death was unknown. Second, he needed precise instructions, nothing left to chance. Third, a precise calculation is worth 1,000 vague impressions. Word ban. Description, a formal prohibition or order not to do something. It signifies a restriction imposed by an authority, often preventing a specific action or item from being used or distributed. It is used when discussing rules and regulations. Phrases of example. First, I cannot believe in a God who would put a ban on dancing. Second, the government placed a ban on all books that contain the word freedom. Third, he felt the ban of the family, a deep and unwritten curse that separated him from all he had known. Word share. Description refers to a portion or piece of something owned jointly with others. It can signify a division of profits, stock, or responsibilities. It describes something possessed or used in common among multiple people or entities. Phrases of example. First, my share of the world is much more than I can bear. Second, let us share our love, our joy, our dreams. Third, he wanted to share the good news with everyone he knew. Word transcript. Description, a written record of spoken or recorded material. It can refer to a written copy of a speech, meeting, or legal proceedings. It's often used in academic or formal contexts, detailing what was said or done. Phrases of example. First, the transcript of the interview revealed inconsistencies in his account. Second, she reviewed the transcript, searching for any hint of deception. Third, he meticulously studied the transcript, a flicker of understanding in his eyes. Word stroke. Description, a gentle, continuous touch or movement, or a sudden medical event causing brain damage due to interrupted blood flow. It can refer to swimming styles or painting techniques, or describe a serious health condition requiring immediate attention. Phrases of example. First, his pen moved with a rapid stroke across the page. Second, a sudden stroke of luck changed everything. Third, the artist's last stroke was a masterpiece. Word comprise. Description means to consist of or include. It indicates that something is made up of several parts or elements that form a whole. It's often used in formal writing to show what components make up a larger entity or group. Phrases of example. First, these principles, when applied, comprise a just and sustainable future. Second, the entire history of the world comprises of a series of failures. Third, our dreams comprise the most beautiful chapters of our lives. Word lively. Description describes someone or something full of energy, enthusiasm, and animation. It suggests a vibrant and active quality, often associated with being cheerful, spirited, and engaging. It can apply to people, animals, or even events. Phrases of example. First, the room was lively with music and laughter. Second, the village was lively with the sounds of the harvest. Third, he had a lively mind and a sharp wit. Word every. Description means each one of a group or total number. It indicates that something includes all members of a set. It's used to express that something applies to all individuals or items within a defined group. Phrases of example. First, every man's life is a drama. Second, every time you go out, you must always remember. Third, every soul that knows life knows suffering. Word phase. Description refers to a distinct period or stage in a process or development. It can describe a temporary condition, a stage of growth, or a particular period of time characterized by certain features or activities. It suggests a sequence or progression. Phrases of example. First, this is a phase I shall outgrow. Second, each new generation has its own phase of rebellion. Third, the project is in its initial phase, and we expect significant progress soon. Word, blue. Description describes a color like the sky or the ocean. It can also describe a feeling, often sadness. It's a common word used to talk about objects, feelings, or descriptions. Phrases of example. First, I am a man who can't see the blue of the sky for the clouds in my heart. Second, the blue lights were on, and they cast a pale and ghostly glow. Third, she was a woman with a blue heart, and she was always sad. Word, suggest. Description, to put forward an idea or possible action. It means to propose something for consideration, often as a helpful idea or gentle recommendation. It is used to offer a solution or a course of action. Phrases of example. First, I suggest you turn down that radio. Second, I suggest we have another drink. Third, he suggested a new approach to the problem. Word, album. Description, a collection of songs or photographs compiled together. It's typically released by a musician or photographer as a single unit. It can refer to music recordings or a book of pictures. Phrases of example. First, she flipped through the album, a ghost of a smile on her face. Second, the whole world seemed to be a kind of old album, full of forgotten pictures and forgotten people. Third, he was a man who saw his life as a single album, a collection of songs that were all about him. Word, official. Description denotes something sanctioned or authorized by an institution or body. It signifies something formal, legitimate, or representing an organization's position. It's used to describe documents, roles, or events approved by an authority. Phrases of example. First, the official report was full of inaccuracies and omissions. Second, he was an official representative of the crown, a man of honor and duty. Third, an official decree, signed by the king himself, proclaimed a day of celebration. Word, heaven. Description refers to a place or state of ultimate happiness and peace, often associated with religious beliefs about the afterlife. It can also be used figuratively to describe something wonderful or delightful. It conveys a sense of bliss and perfection. Phrases of example. First, all the beauty we see in nature is merely a reflection of heaven. Second, she thought of heaven and knew that it was somewhere far away. Third, I'd lost my faith in heaven, and it was hard to believe in anything else. Word, have. Description, to possess something, like an object or quality. It can also mean to experience something, such as a feeling or event. It's a very common verb used to describe ownership or experiencing something. Phrases of example. First, I have nothing to offer but blood, toil, tears, and sweat. Second, I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. Third, to have seen the world, one must first see it through one's own eyes. Word, inject. Description means to force a liquid or gas into something. It often refers to medical procedures, but can also describe introducing something into a system or environment. It implies a deliberate and forceful introduction. Phrases of example. First, the poison injected slowly, stealing the life from him. Second, he injected a dose of hope into their despairing hearts. Third, the serum injected a surge of energy, but at what cost? Word, supply. Description refers to an amount of something available for use or sale. It can also mean to provide something, like goods or services. It's used when discussing resources, provisions, or the act of providing them. Phrases of example. First, we must supply the needs of the people. Second, the ship was laden with a supply of provisions. Third, they had a constant supply of energy for their work. Word, fabulous. Description means wonderful or extraordinary. It expresses high praise or admiration. It describes something excellent, stylish, or delightful, often used to emphasize a positive quality exceeding expectations. Phrases of example. First, her beauty was fabulous, like a dream come to life. Second, the world was a fabulous place, full of wonder and possibility. Third, they lived a fabulous life of luxury and excess. Word, triumph. Description denotes a great victory or achievement after overcoming challenges. It signifies a moment of success, often accompanied by feelings of joy and pride. It implies a significant accomplishment earned through effort and perseverance. Phrases of example. First, his triumph was to have lived a life that defied easy explanation. Second, the triumph of the will is the only way to achieve anything worthwhile. Third, it was a hollow triumph, bought at too great a cost. Word, recommendation. Description, a suggestion or endorsement of something or someone. It indicates a positive opinion or approval, often given formally. It can relate to a product, service, person, or action, implying it's worthy of consideration or use. Phrases of example. First, I offer no recommendation, no advice. Second, my recommendation is to live a life of purpose. Third, her recommendation was simple: forgive and move on. Word, allegedly. Description introduces information presented as fact but not yet proven. It suggests a claim has been made, often in a legal context, but its truth remains unverified. Use it when reporting claims needing confirmation. Phrases of example. First, I wanted to believe the story, but it was all allegedly true. Second, the man had allegedly been a hero, but no one could remember his name. Third, the whole thing had allegedly happened, but there was no proof of it. Word, present. Description means existing or happening now. It describes something that is current, available, or occurring at this moment. It is often used to indicate something is current or immediate. Phrases of example. First, a present of love is always welcome. Second, he gave her a present, a small silver locket. Third, the present situation is more serious than you realize. Word, steel. Description, a strong, hard metal made of iron and carbon. It's a manufactured material, often used in construction and manufacturing. It implies strength, durability, and resilience in various applications. Phrases of example. First, the steel of his gaze could cut stone. Second, her will was forged in steel, unbending and resolute. Third, he worked with steel and fire, shaping his destiny. Word, chapter. Description, a division or section of a book, or a similar grouping of related information. It's used to organize content, indicating a distinct part of a larger work, often with a specific theme or set of events. Phrases of example. First, each chapter told a new secret, a new danger. Second, a new chapter begins with every sunrise. Third, the chapter ends, and with it, a world disappears. Word, rhythm. Description refers to a strong, regular, repeated pattern of movements or sounds. It describes the beat or pace of something, whether it's music, poetry, or even actions. It emphasizes the flow and structure created by recurring elements. Phrases of example. First, the rhythm of the waves was a constant lullaby. Second, the rhythm of his life had been set long ago. Third, there's a rhythm to everything, even the silence. Word, concession. Description, a concession is an act of admitting that something you previously opposed or denied is true or valid. It often involves making a compromise or yielding to an opposing viewpoint, typically in a negotiation or debate. Phrases of example. First, it was a concession to the weakness of human nature. Second, I've made a concession, but I expect something in return. Third, he made a tactical concession to gain the upper hand. Word, strange. Description means unusual or odd, different from what is considered normal. It describes something that seems peculiar, unfamiliar, or not easily understood. It can refer to people, places, or situations. Phrases of example. First, it was a strange, unsettling feeling she couldn't quite place. Second, the world seemed strange and new to him. Third, he felt a strange sense of familiarity. Word, surprise. Description, a feeling or event that is unexpected and often causes a strong reaction. It can refer to a sudden, unexpected event or the feeling you get when something unexpected happens. It describes a state of being startled or amazed. Phrases of example. First, it was a surprise to us all. Second, the greatest surprise of my life was always being alive. Third, the surprise was pleasant enough. Word, sake. Description, means for the benefit or cause of something. It's often used in phrases like, for the sake of, to express doing something to help or protect something else. It suggests a purpose or motivation behind an action. Phrases of example. First, for the sake of argument, let us assume that he is telling the truth. Second, he did it for the sake of his country, for the sake of his people. Third, let us, for the sake of our children, strive for a better world. Word, pull. Description refers to a force that draws something towards a point. It describes the act of applying force to move something closer. It can also refer to a tug or strain, or a force exerted to draw something. Phrases of example. First, the tug of war was a great pull on their hope. Second, a sudden pull on my sleeve stopped me. Third, with a powerful pull, he drew the sword free. Word, people. Description refers to a group of human beings, individuals. It's a common and basic word used when talking about groups of individuals, communities, or crowds of human beings. It's a fundamental term for discussing society. Phrases of example. First, the people are happier who use what they have. Second, people will do anything for someone who makes them feel like they're special. Third, all that I am, you already know, never have I said a word that wasn't true. Word, tune. Description refers to a melody or sequence of musical notes. It can also mean to adjust something until it works correctly, like adjusting a radio or an engine. It's often used in contexts involving music or machinery. Phrases of example. First, he hummed a familiar tune, a remnant of happier days. Second, the wind played a mournful tune through the bare branches. Third, she played a lively tune on the piano, filling the room with joy. Word, punish. Description means to inflict a penalty or consequence for wrongdoing. It involves making someone suffer for breaking a rule or committing a bad action. It's used when addressing consequences for negative behavior or actions. Phrases of example. First, he deserved to be punished for his crimes against humanity. Second, one must punish oneself severely, but one must do it privately. Third, don't punish me for what I didn't do. Word, clause. Description, a group of words containing a subject and a verb forming part of a sentence. It can be independent, making a complete thought, or dependent, needing more information to make sense. It's a grammatical unit used to build sentences. Phrases of example. First, she insisted on a clause about his debts. Second, the main clause of the agreement remained unchanged. Third, every clause is important in legal documents. Word, symbol. Description, a thing that represents something else. It can be an object, image, or sign that stands for an idea, quality, or thing. Symbols are used to communicate meaning and often have cultural significance. Phrases of example. First, the raven itself was a grim, ghastly, gaunt, and ominous bird of ill omen, a symbol of centuries of sorrow. Second, the emerald was a symbol of all she desired and could not have. Third, the mockingbird symbolizes innocence, a target for evil. To kill a mockingbird, Harper Lee. Word, writer. Description, a person who writes books, articles, or stories. It's someone whose job or hobby involves creating written content. It's a simple term for anyone who puts words on paper or a screen. Phrases of example. First, the writer should always be a little uneasy. Second, a good writer confesses everything. Third, every writer begins as a reader. Word, past. Description indicates something has already happened or occurred. It shows that an action or event is finished and refers to a time before the present, often used with verbs to show completion or sequence. Phrases of example. First, I cannot go back again so easily to the past. Second, the past is never dead. It's not even past. Third, it is always darkest before the past. Word, coordination. Description refers to the ability to work together effectively. It implies a smooth and harmonious interaction between people or different parts of a system. It's used when describing teamwork, organization, or the way elements function in a unified way. Phrases of example. First, her efforts at coordination never seem to bear fruit. Second, coordination of efforts is key to success in any endeavor. Third, the dancer's coordination was mesmerizing to watch. Word, sure. Description means without doubt or uncertainty. It indicates a high degree of confidence or certainty about something. It's used to express conviction or to confirm something is definitely true. Phrases of example. First, I am not sure that I like him. Second, I am sure of nothing. Third, I am sure you have heard of me. Word, race. Description refers to a competition, often involving running or other physical activities. It can also describe a group of people with shared ancestry and physical traits. It signifies a contest or a classification of people. Phrases of example. First, the human race is a race against time. Second, the race is not always to the swift. Third, they were running a race against despair. Word, vague. Description describes something unclear, imprecise, or lacking detail. It suggests a lack of specificity, making it difficult to understand or define exactly. It's often used when describing ideas, plans, or descriptions that are not sharply defined. Phrases of example. First, the notion of the past is vague, as it has been shaped by memories and perspectives. Second, his explanations were vague, offering little clarity about his intentions. Third, a vague sense of unease settled over her, impossible to define. Word, building. Description, a large structure with walls and a roof, used for living, working, or storing things. It's a place where people can gather or perform specific activities. A house, school, or store are examples of buildings. Phrases of example. First, the old building stood on a hill overlooking the town. Second, the building was tall and grand, a symbol of power and wealth. Third, the children played in the building, laughing and full of joy. Word, swimming. Description, the activity of moving through water by using your arms and legs. It's a common recreational activity and a useful life skill. It can also refer to a place where this activity takes place, like a pool or ocean. Phrases of example. First, the little swimmers were enjoying themselves in the pool. Second, I love swimming in the ocean, the feeling of the waves around me. Third, he began swimming towards the shore, exhausted but determined. Word, tide. Description refers to the periodic rise and fall of sea level caused by the gravitational pull of the moon and sun. It can also be used metaphorically to describe a general trend or movement, like a tide of opinion. It suggests a recurring, powerful force. Phrases of example. First, the tide is turning and so are we. Second, the incoming tide brought with it debris and the scent of the ocean. Third, he felt the relentless tide of time pulling him under. Word, way. Description refers to a method or manner of doing something. It can also describe a route or direction. It is a common word used to talk about how things are done or the path taken to reach a destination. Phrases of example. First, I have been looking for a way out. Second, he knew a way to make her laugh again. Third, there is more than one way to die, old man. Word, blessing. Description, a noun describing something good, positive, or beneficial that is gratefully received. It often suggests divine favor or a stroke of good fortune. It can also refer to a prayer of thanks or a conferred grace. Phrases of example. First, he felt the raw and blessing essence of his being. Second, she was a woman who had a blessing in her heart. Third, the whole world was a strange and terrible blessing. Word, scene. Description, a place where something happens or is located. It can refer to a place in a movie, play, or photograph, or a place where an event takes place. It's a location with significance related to a particular story or occurrence. Phrases of example. First, the whole scene was drenched in a sickly, pale yellow light. Second, the opening scene was a chaotic explosion of color and sound. Third, the final scene played out in my mind, a bittersweet memory. Word, herself. Description refers to a female person, used as the object of a verb or as a complement to a verb. It replaces she when she is performing or experiencing the action. It indicates that the person being referred to is female. Phrases of example. First, she took care of herself and her family. Second, she knew herself to be a woman of courage. Third, she discovered herself in the quiet moments. Word, mobile. Description means able to move or be moved freely. It can describe people, objects, or even qualities. It often refers to something that isn't fixed in one place, allowing for flexibility and ease of movement. Phrases of example. First, the mobile library was a great comfort to the village children. Second, a mobile phone seemed to be an odd symbol of connection. Third, the caravan was mobile, able to travel wherever the wind blew.